Jainism. Welcome to Adults Class 2, Practical Applications of Jainism. Let's start with the Nokar mantra. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayayanam, Namo Vajanam, Namo Sesasam, Jesu Panchamanchaya, Sarvabhava Panasanam, Savesim Paramam Havai Mantra. A while back, I had an epiphany. We talk a lot about how to achieve goals, and whether they be spiritual goals, professional goals, or personal goals. But we never talk directly about how to conquer the specific things that stop us from achieving those goals. So last week we talked about how to defeat procrastination. And this week I'd like to talk about how to recover from setbacks. That is, when we fail those goals, how do we recover? They can be small setbacks or large setbacks, but we all fail sometimes. A small setback might be not getting to the gym after you come home from vacation, right? A small setback might be failing your diet one day. A large setback might be letting your relationship with your spouse deteriorate. Or a large setback might be choosing the wrong major in college, something that really affects your life disproportionately. So I'd like to talk today about how to recover from those setbacks, especially in light of the goals that I know that all of you have written down and are working towards. So the first thing to understand is that there are two types of setbacks. Jai There's the setbacks where it's your fault, and there's the setbacks where it's not your fault. All right? And so identifying which is which sounds easy, but it's harder than it might sound for some people because of a particular animal. We talked about the monkey mind, and we talked about the lizard brain. But I have bad news for you. There's another animal that lives inside your head. It's called the rationalization hamster. Now, the hamster refers to the idea of a hamster running on a wheel endlessly, and it doesn't get anywhere. Now, your rationalization hamster that lives inside your head performs tons of mental gymnastics, creating elaborate justifications and excuses for your behavior, without addressing the underlying issues, the fact that things are your fault. I'll give you an example. Have you ever met one of those types of persons where nothing is their fault? Mm-hmm. They have every excuse in the book. Oh, it was against me. Oh, this person was against me. Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, they just never take any type of blame. This is the rationalization hamster at work. And they have a very well-developed hamster in their head. So what the hamster does is protect our self-image and our ego by avoiding the cognitive dissonance of considering ourselves to be a bad person. So no one thinks of themselves as a bad person, even bad people. All right? Even bad people. Bad people think they are good people that are the unfortunate victims of circumstance. Yes. But no, they're just bad people. And they just do bad things. But they don't think they're bad people because of this hamster, because of this way to try to avoid thinking of themselves as a bad person. Okay, so that's the first step, is identifying if the failure is your fault or not your fault. Next step is to acknowledge your feelings about it. That is, accept your emotions about the setback. So for example, you might be feeling disappointed, frustrated, or upset that you allowed your relationship with your spouse to deteriorate. You have to accept responsibility. That might be your fault, okay? It might be their fault too, but it might be your fault too, all right? But if you have not gone back to the gym after your vacation, that's definitely your fault, okay? Even though, I was sick and I had to do work and it's really easy to become a victim like that, but it's definitely your fault. Thanks for everybody who just came in. We're talking about how to avoid setbacks and the goals that we created on our goal sheet. That is, when setbacks happen, how do we bounce back from them? And the first step is realizing you have a rationalization hamster in your head and avoiding and acknowledge if it's your fault or not. The third step is to gain perspective. Oh, I have an example of acknowledging your feelings. One time, somebody broke into my car and stole my radio. This is not my fault. I knew it was not my fault. But I felt bad. And I had no idea. Why would I feel bad? Not that I felt bad because I lost the radio. Not that I felt bad because I thought it was my fault. I knew it wasn't my fault because my car was locked. It was in the garage. There's nothing I could have done. But I felt bad. And I think why I felt bad is because I felt bad that we live in a world like that. And I felt bad that somebody had to break into my car and grab the radio and what kind of life that person had, that they thought that was a good idea and stuff like that. And I think that's why I felt bad. So you might have a lot of feelings when you suffer from setbacks that you have no idea where they came from. And that's just a really small example. Imagine if something big happened to your life, and you felt bad about it. You felt intensely bad. That could last for years and years, of course. And so that's why it's important to acknowledge your feelings. You're your body. You're a soul. You're not a body. Your feelings are generated by your body, specifically by your brain. But guess what? You got to deal with it. Nobody else is going to deal with it, and that may help you to deal with it. But you still got to work through it. Just because you're a soul doesn't mean you don't have to work through the pain of setbacks, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the third step is to gain perspective about the setback. That is, try to treat the setback as a temporary obstacle rather than a permanent failure. That is, just because you didn't get back to the gym after your vacation doesn't mean you can't go, right? Some people might have that defeatist attitude of, it's been 2 weeks, it's over for me. I can't do it anymore, right? No, of course you can go tomorrow, you can go that day, right? Or like, if you cheated on your diet and you ate out 2 times in a row, once for lunch and once for dinner, well, you can say, hey, yeah, I had a lapse there. Okay, that's gone. I can't do anything about that, right? But I have perspective. That is, okay, in the long run, that probably doesn't hurt. Maybe I'll do a ekasana tomorrow, and maybe that'll get me back on track. Or maybe I'll do something like that. That is, we gain perspective on the setback. And it might be a large one. Let's say you chose the wrong major in college. You say, you feel bad. You're like, 4 years. What did I do for 4 years? And then now I have no prospects, no nothing. Well, try to gain perspective on it, whereas say, okay, I can work towards something else. I can work towards a certification. I can try to get back, and it might take me 2 to 3 years to get back to where I want to be. But then that 4 and those 3, that's 7 out of my whole life, right? So it helps to try to gain some perspective on it. If the setback wasn't your fault, and truly wasn't your fault, forgive yourself. You might be wondering, well, why do I have to forgive myself? If it's not your fault, you still might feel guilty. If it is your fault, redirect those feelings of guilt into actions. That's great that you acknowledge it's your fault and you feel guilty about it. But just feeling guilty is not going to do anything. You feeling guilty is not going to make your spouse feel better. You feeling guilty is not going to get you back on track at the gym. You feeling guilty, you feeling sorry for yourself is not going to do anything. In fact, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. So you got to practice redirecting your feelings. And you can work on it by, we've talked many times in this class about redirecting anger, right? Same thing. Redirect your feelings of guilt into action. All right, so we're about halfway done. Questions or comments about that?
I think generally, the point that you made about there was a point that you had made about I'm losing my train of thought a little bit here, but work with me.
Sure.
About the point where I was getting at is setbacks, and those people with the hamster mindset.
Yeah.
That they do not want to accept faults.
Yeah, they're always the victim.
They're always the victim, exactly. So, what is the root cause of that behavior? And I believe the root cause is fear, right?
The root cause is ego. They don't want to admit to themselves they're a bad person. So they deflect accepting blame to anything and everything else except themselves. So the root cause is ego.
Ego.
They want to preserve their self-image.
And I have seen literally some people like that who never seen any except, and we feel like, okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Right.
To start
Yeah,
doing
we come across these people in our
Yeah.
workplace all the
Yeah.
time, right? Like it's never their fault.
Right.
It's always somebody else who has been deficient in delivering to them or something that has caused the problem.
Yeah, and also I feel like from childhood, in it's in an environment where you're born and brought up. Like, if there is something happens and when they sit down and they talk, that's a different culture. And sometimes say that he did it, this why I did it. And in India, I know it's very common that he did it or he said it, she said it.
She said it.
That's why I got angry. Actually, I don't know. Now I'm able to actually differentiate that. That's not the right attitude and thinking that he did it, that's why I know, but then you are killing yourself.
Right.
Exactly.
But from childhood we see that attitude, and actually, even in media and the villain and hero, he did it, so I killed him. So
Yeah.
he did it, so I
It's a
did it.
revenge.
What's
Yeah.
the difference
So,
then between him and you?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
true. Yeah, that is exactly right. And to his point, like bad people never think that they're actually bad.
And-
They
and
actually
I-
think they're actually good people.
And I don't say you don't stand up for yourself. It's just that you think about your actions.
Right.
That's it. I mean, do something in a good way that even the opposite person understands that no, he or she was wrong. I mean, not every time that happens that they'll accept, but can try.
So,
In fact, I would say, go ahead.
so, no, I was just going to say, so you guys are all talking about this practicalness, right? Of application, right?
Yeah.
So how do you change that, right? Like, we're just talking, we see this. So what's the solution?
I mean,
Do you
and
change the culture, or how do you change the culture? Or
yeah, you try
do
to
you
change.
reprimand someone? See, in the
Yeah.
office, you can reprimand in time to time, right? Depending where you are, right?
So after I realizing, when my kids now say that, my son says sometimes, she did this. My two kids.
younger one,
So
yeah.
then I say, she did it, but why you got angry, and what rights it gives you
Right.
to get angry? I'm very tired. That's why I got angry. I mean, it just happened 2 days ago. My son said, I was very angry. Next day morning, I asked him that why. He said, I was very angry. He said, then I said, but that doesn't give you right to get angry.
Mm-hmm.
You are tired, understand. So I'm now actually trying to teach my kids like that, with that anger is your responsibility, it's not the other person's responsibility.
Yeah.
You should have walked out. You should. My daughter is 13 now. I tell her and she says, yeah, I'm picking up that. I'm picking up that. You understand how you are, what state you are in. You are overeaten. You have not slept. All this is minor things which we have not been taught, but those are the main cause of our mood swings and everything. Actually.
In fact, to extend this, for what I've experienced, this is a workplace experience, and I've personally been through this many times. I think actually accepting faults creates trust with the opposite person. I remember a specific incident when the CIO of a company, I was working with him, and the first 6 months, this is 2021 I'm talking about, the first 6 months of the project, things did not go according to how we planned it. And at that time, I accepted accountability, I accepted the fault that, hey, our team was deficient in so and so and so areas, and here are the reasons why. Some of the reasons were because of the gaps in the skill set in our team, and some of the reasons were because of the gaps in the skill set of the CIO's team. Be very transparent and authentic about it. Everybody, the rest of the other team members were scared to have that conversation with the CIO. I was open and authentic about it. I said, this is what it is. Guess what? That person's degree of trust with me significantly exponentially increased. And we are still working to date with that person. Right?
I think someone on the opposite side that's willing to
Understand.
That, yeah.
is probably like that. I've seen many times that the guy comes and says, it was my fault. But every day he says the same thing.
Yes, that is true. That has to change. Exactly. So what do we learn from those faults
So
is
as I
important
So
as
you
well
don't
to
even know what to
demonstrate.
tell him. He's like, it was my fault. Like
Correct.
now what, right? Like, it's like, where do I start with
Yeah,
you?
yeah. So that's a good point. So you accept your fault, but then you also have a plan of action to correct those faults as well, right? So that's a good one, for sure.
So the fifth step of recovering from your setbacks is identifying the lessons that you learned. That is, you reflect on what caused it and what you can learn from it. Are there any mistakes you made? Sometimes there are, especially if it was your fault. Sometimes there are, even if it wasn't your fault. Okay, sometimes you can identify mistakes that you made or anything you could have done differently. The most important thing, though, is you don't ruminate on it. That is, ruminate means you think about it over and over and you don't get anywhere. You just keep on thinking, reliving the trauma in your head about your setback. And it doesn't spur action. It only spurs further thoughts. That's what we call rumination. So you can tell if you're ruminating if it doesn't lead to any actions on your part. The sixth step is to set realistic goals. Maybe the fault was, we talk about SMART goals all the time. Maybe the fault was the goal setting itself, right? Maybe you failed on S, M, A, R, or T, right? So readjust and be able to adapt. The seventh step is to seek support. That's why we're all here. We're all going to support each other for when we fail our goals, which we are likely to do because it's incredibly hard to achieve goals. Talking it out with somebody, have somebody in your life. A lot of times we don't have that person, especially men. We don't have somebody we can go to talk to. We don't feel comfortable talking to our wives about it. We don't have another person that we can talk to about it. Find that person, okay? You have to try to find that person that you're able to be vulnerable with, that you're able to admit you made a mistake with, because sometimes even just telling somebody that you made a mistake helps you feel better. Number 8, stay persistent. Remember that the setbacks are not permanent obstacles, that they're just, you can overcome a setback by adjusting your plan. We can adjust the things we made on our chart. And number 11 is change your mindset. That is, stay positive. Remember, the happiest people in the world are not the richest people in the world. The happiest people in the world are not the most professionally successful people in the world. And I will admit that the happiest people in the world are not the most spiritually successful people in the world. The monks living in Tibet, the Jain monks living in India, they're probably not the happiest people in the world, okay? So if people that are not the richest, not the most successful, not further along the spiritual path than you are, can be happy, you have really no excuse not to be happy. It's not these setbacks that are causing you unhappiness, okay? It's something else. And so your job is to identify what those are.
So who are the happiest people?
The happiest people in the world are the people that are congruent. That is, their thoughts are congruent with their speech, are congruent with their actions, and they also have a support system around them. In case they falter, they have a group of people that will pick them up. Wow. Those are the happiest people in the world. Okay, so this class has always been about increasing the quality of your life. So I recognize that all of you have sat down with this piece of paper that I've handed out and written down goals. And you may not have achieved those. So tell me why. Tell me why you haven't achieved them. You've suffered a setback, and now we know how to deal with the setbacks. So what can we do?
I mean, just not disciplined enough. I should have kept that goal every day right in front of my eyes.
Okay, so you forgot about it. That was the problem?
Yeah, that was the problem. And again, I accept my fault over there.
Right.
That I should have just kept it right in front of me every day. And out of the 4 or 5 goals I believe we had documented, even if we would accomplish 3, I would have felt much...
3?
Much
you would have been ahead of everybody here if you accomplished 3 goals.
And honestly, there were not none of those goals were honestly unaccomplishable.
Right.
They were easily... It's just a matter of sticking it in front of you.
Feel like you got distracted? Okay, so there could be a couple things. Do you feel like you went back into your routine and you didn't do that? Do you feel like you got distracted from it, or do you feel like you kind of just forgot about it, or some combination?
Both. Combination of both, for sure.
Okay. So can we put that, how do you remember it? How do you think about it every day? Do you have a morning routine where you can look at it? You can put that piece of paper right there, or on the mirror, or on your phone?
Yeah, absolutely. I think morning routine, instead of looking at the phone, that's the first thing. It's better to have that piece of paper that I look
Look at
the
that piece
first
of
thing.
paper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that's the change I'm going to make.
Okay.
Yes.
Any help that is just forgot about it. We wrote down on the piece of paper. I shoved the piece of paper in my car on the way home. I never thought about it again. I looked at the piece of paper. Oh, I wanted to do these things.
So actually there's
I
an
just
app.
forgot about these goals.
Sorry to interject here. I actually came across this app again from this book. I believe I shared about this book in this class called Atomic Habits. So there's actually an app called Atoms, and I was actually playing around with it because the same author has come up with this app in which you can start tracking your habits, which will lead to those goals that you have set up for yourself. Again, I'm playing around with it. I don't know whether I can track my goals, and I'm pretty sure we should be able to, because that's what the app is all about. The app is called Atoms, and it has the functionality to send you notifications at regular intervals in times during the day. How you want it to remind you to start tracking your habits, which will eventually lead to a goals. Because I think ultimately goals can be accomplished through your everyday daily habits. I think that's what it is, right?
We can all remind you on group chat.
That's true. that can be another.
What's the
part.
status of your
Another channel? Actually, that's not a bad idea. That's a lot of folks actually do that. There's a competitive group and
Live support.
So how does Jainism help us recover from setbacks? Well, we talked about the hamster, right? The hamster is due to the ego.
ego.
So if you can use, and ego is one of our 4 enemies. What are our 4 enemies?
Anger, ego.
Anger, ego, deceit, and greed. Ego is one of our 4 enemies. We've talked in this class a lot about how to fight your ego. So if you can destroy your ego, you can kill the hamster that lives inside your mind, and that will help you recover from setbacks. Okay? One thing that I think that Jainism can help us with is perspective. That is step 3, gaining perspective, right? Where we talked about, oh, it's just a day, I just fell off the wagon, life is long, things like that. Remember, it's not just one lifetime. You may have screwed up this life permanently, okay? You may have really crashed and burned, got addicted to drugs, something like that, and really screwed up your life. But it's not just this life, okay? You can still turn it around for your next life. The problem is, most of us act like we have one life to live, okay? It's not YOLO. It's not YOLT, okay? You only live infinitely many times. It's YOLIPT, okay? You only live infinitely many times. So you can start turning your life, you can start practicing Samvara and Nirdra for your next life. Even if you screwed this one up permanently. And none of us here have screwed your life up permanently, okay? I don't know about our online friends, but no, that's just a joke. That's just a joke. I think that Jainism can help you there. How many of you believe you're a soul? Oh, more than last time. Okay, about half. Okay, that's good. That's a start. So if you believe you're a soul, then you can start making your next life better. All right, another way that Jainism can help us is karma theory, right? So now this is kind of a bait and switch I pulled on you about separating these types of setbacks into your fault and not your fault. Well, karma theory says it's all your fault. It's you suffer the fruits of your actions, right? And so that can definitely help you. You don't want to get fatalistic about it because karma theory works both ways. You suffer the fruit of your actions, but then when you rehabilitate your relationship with your spouse, you get the fruits of those actions too. Right? So it's not just fate that, oh, I got divorced. Oh, now I can't do anything. It was karma that made me get divorced, you know? Well, karma can also make you get back together with your spouse, right? How else can Jainism help us recover from setbacks?
By staying calm in situations where you get into a fit of rage and anger, and that time you want to connect with your Jainism principles to not react in that moment.
Right, because what will happen is you will make the setback worse.
Yeah.
So you don't, whatever happened already happened, but you don't want to make it worse. So if you fall back on Jain principles and to not react, as Sandeep was saying, then you won't make it worse. That's great. Well,
What about actions, Timur? I think at the end of the day, the best way to deal with setbacks is by taking action.
right.
Right? Like it's a setback. It's what has happened. You can't change the past. You don't know what the future is. You live in the present. That is one of the core roots of Jainism. Getting comfortable with suffering, but then doing something about that suffering, taking action,
Right.
so that you can put that suffering behind you and you can pick up the next suffering challenge. Right?
Right.
So it's, I think the best way to handle setback is by taking action.
Sure. I don't think that's opposite of what he said about remaining
Yeah,
calm
it's
and
complementary.
things like that.
Yeah,
You can
absolutely.
take you
Yeah,
can
that-
take
that's-
action
that's
without
action.
anger.
Yeah.
You can take action without without passion
True.
behind it, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things a lot of people in this class have struggled with. That is, you don't have to have a feeling behind actions. You can take actions without the passion behind it.
Right.
Because we struggle with it because most of our actions are driven by feelings. If not for feelings, most of us wouldn't do anything. We get a feeling of hunger, we go eat. We get a feeling of loneliness, we go hang out with somebody. We get a feeling of boredom, we try to distract ourselves. Try to do actions without feelings behind them.
Actually, I was going to say that I don't know, I'm talking about myself, that we don't live life, I feel like consciously, like what I want to do, what I want. I mean, you can actually do what you want, you can even feel how you want, but we actually go just based on the moods that I ate this now, okay, now I ate and now what I need to do, okay, somebody's calling, let's do it, okay, yeah, I'm available. So we just go based on, okay, let the day go, that's it. I mean, and just imagine we say that, oh, I have to work for the, for the money, but just once we have enough money, but then what I will do if I leave the job, so because I don't even have my own good plan to utilize that 8 hours, and that's why some people even work even though they have enough money, because we are just going by passing the day. We are not running and
Going with the flow.
Going with the flow, that's it. I mean, we are just passing the days, I feel like.
You know what makes me so happy is that you're starting to see the bars of the cage that surround you, that enslave your life. It is this go with the flow attitude. I'm not doing what I want. I'm doing what everybody else wants.
Exactly.
I'm not. What is this money that I'm working for if I'm afraid to retire and afraid to not use the money, or what will I do if I don't go to work for 8 hours? Your boss was enslaving you. Your friends and family are enslaving you to get you to do what they want, and that makes me so happy because you're starting to realize what people say when they say your life is suffering. And a lot of when you read that in the book, you don't know that. You're like, the book says my life is suffering. No, it's not. I'm rich. I have a great family. I do this. I do that. How is my life suffering? This is why your life is suffering.
You're enslaved.
So he's starting to see the bars of the cage. Oh, the invisible bars all around him. He's starting to see, and that makes me so happy. And I wish that all of us could see that.
When I just came today, entered in this class, I was going to ask you this only, that every Saturday, like, this is so nice, 1 hour, you really think about what you're doing in a life. The moment you walk out of this door,
it all goes away.
The moment you walk out,
Exactly.
and what my 20 friends are doing, I have to follow them because they are here and hey, why? And I mean, obviously we are in families and sansar too, so obviously why we are not doing this? Okay, let's go ahead, do it.
fair
So
enough.
we are like, it's not like that we are completely able to eliminate those things and all those things. So again, we have to do that part. But I was listening one podcast, and in that podcast it was saying that you have to do those activities. You go do it, but don't get attached and just come back, because you are doing it for your family, but then again come back to where you want to be.
Right.
But you cannot completely eliminate those until your family realizes those things.
Yeah, and this principle of non-attachment or aparigraha is very key to understanding how to let go of things. And with regards to setbacks, these setbacks are transient too, okay? These setbacks aren't permanent. Everything is transient, including these setbacks that you're experiencing. The reason that it's so hard for us to grasp, I think, is because based on the people here, that the age of the people here that I see is that you happen to be born, just by freak accident, in one of the most stable periods in history. That is, we'll call it the Pax Americana, where America, the UN, and NATO has enforced a type of peace on the world for about 50 years.
True.
Okay? And you think that that's the way it was and will be and the way it is, but it's not, okay?
Yeah.
The way that most human beings have worked is in a perpetual state of transientness. And that's why it's so hard to grasp that, for us, to grasp that everything is transient. Your kids actually know more than you that this life is very transient, you know? They suffered through no housing prospects, no employment prospects, not able to participate in the stock market, not able to participate in the gains that you have been able to participate, not able to enjoy the stability that you have enjoyed just because of when you were born. If you were born pre-World War II, you know that life can be gone in an instant. Everything is transient. It's very hard for us to accept this kind of idea that, well, how could everything be transient? So that just happened to, I just happened to think of that just now. Okay, so how else can Jainism help us? Can we talk about your personal goals? Everybody here has filled out a sheet, and everybody here has not achieved everything on that sheet. So what happened? Tell me what happened. I want to know. We already got one example. I want to know what happened to your goals. What setback did you encounter?
I think one of the reasons is they are not on the top priorities for what we do on a daily basis.
Right.
So that's why they somehow go down in the list of things.
It's hard for long-term goals, right? To make something, because the short-term goals keep on impinging on the things you have to do every day. Yeah. So how can we get it to be a higher priority? So this is a little bit different than, oh, I just forgot about it. Just, oh, I remember I have to do that, but I got to do these million other things, right?
Yeah.
So how do we do that? How do we recover from that?
One way.
I wanted to add, this is Kinjal. So, like you mentioned, I see the priority, I'm not motivated, right? So, now what I've done is I kept the book right next to me at my nightstand, so I tried to open it, I read it. But that 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, it's not making that change that I want to, and I see, but it's still, I think for me, it's all of this about things that we talked about, not motivation,
Right.
It's pushing it down, we'll come to it.
Right. So, okay, so also a different problem. So we didn't forget, and it's a priority for us, but I'm not motivated to, can you turn that off? Thanks. I'm not motivated to, why would you not be motivated? If it's a priority for you, I'm not motivated to pick up the book. Oh, I know why you're not. Because you have other distractions you can do. Because it's a long-term goal and it's far away. It's going to take me 1 year to read this book. I'm not motivated to spend 10 minutes before bed to read this book because I don't realize that these small 10 minutes will add up over the months to help me finish this book. That's why you're not motivated, because you don't see the bigger picture, right?
Well, could it be that you're not motivated because you're not getting results?
Right. Because what's 10 minutes of reading going to do? It's going to get me 5 pages, right?
It's like going to a gym, right?
Right.
You go to the gym the first time, you ain't going to look like the guy next to you, right? But you got to go so many days, and that adds up, right?
That's a very good point.
Right. So we don't see the results. We're used to instant gratification.
Yeah, we don't see the instant result, I would say.
Right. Right. And so that's a problem. So how can we recover? That's also a setback, as well as it's not a priority because we have more short-term priorities for us. So here's what we do. We carve out a portion of our day to work on long-term goals. And that's all we do in that time. And that way, yeah, we have short-term goals that we have to work for. You know, things are breaking in the house and the kids need something signed and all that. We have all that we have to do. But we carve out a portion of our day to work on long-term goals. That way, it doesn't matter if it's not a short-term priority. It doesn't matter if we're not motivated to do it because we don't see instant gratification. That's the only time we have to do it in. And that's the only thing we're supposed to be doing it for that time. So let's carve out a particular time in the day to where we work on our long-term goals. And that should help us recover from those setbacks.
You know, if you use like Microsoft Teams or Microsoft anything, right? When you use your calendar, they have that, you can open the focus time.
Yes.
And it just blocks out spots that you have during the day just for focus time.
Right.
I never really understood that until like after I started using it, that it broke my day up and I could actually go do what I wanted to in that time.
Right.
You know, so there are, I guess not apps, but you know, there are software out there that helps you like carve out a time that is blocked out so that you can do that, because it's very hard to carve out that.
It is very effective, by the way. I've asked my EA to block my time every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, literally 3 to 5 is focus time. So there is no meetings on the calendar. It's up to me to accept any meetings if I want to, sometimes because life happens. But that's one. And then literally, I'm not kidding. Like in those 2 hours, I take a quick nap for 10 minutes. If you call it a nap or meditate, whatever you want to call it, but it is my decompression time, and it significantly helps. Exactly, it significantly helps. You know that, and then stacking these kind of things one behind the other. Right? You mentioned about carving out time to think about long-term goals. It could be like immediately after lunch, you just dedicate 15 minutes after lunch every day just for that. That kind of becomes a part of how you eat food every day. Thinking about long-term goals becomes a thing that you think about every day, and you stack it up with things that you regularly do in the day. Right. That really helps. And the focus time is pretty awesome. Like that really helps for sure.
How else have you not achieved your goals? What setbacks have happened to you?
I think that something happened, you know, you have a flat tire, kid gets sick, whatever, right? And then to get it back because you're behind, you lose that time. You're trying to catch up, so that's the first thing that goes off the list, right? You know, it's not about priority. It's just it's a sequence of events that creates this
point, right?
You know what that reminds me of is we have every hour of our future scheduled for us, and we don't incorporate the unexpected. We know unexpected things will happen. You know, when we go to the airport, we build in time for unexpected things to happen, but we don't build that into our life. Because when you say, "Oh, something unexpected happened," well, then that caused a domino effect. Why? Because every minute of my time was scheduled.
Exactly.
So we can use this carve out time for that same thing. We can use that carve out time can be our buffer in our life. And especially if it's daily, that will help us get back on track and help us stop this domino reaction, because every minute of our life is scheduled. And hey, how about not scheduling every minute of your life? How about that?
You know, recently I had a friend that went on a vacation, and we were thinking about going to the same place. So I asked him, I said, "Hey, do you have some notes or like where you went?" So he sent me like a 20-page thing. And I sent it to Lopa, my wife, and I said, "Hey, you know, this is my friend." He's like, "Can you just plan it?" You know? But then you look through it, it's like, wake up at 6:30, do this, then have breakfast here, and then go here and have, you know, this gelato here, and then go here, and then do this, and then you stop here and go, like, it was like minute by minute by minute, and she's like, "This is not a vacation. You need a vacation after this vacation." You know, and some people are very like, you know,
this is my free time. I'm going to use it.
Every minute. Yeah, I'm going to be focused the whole time. You know, big block.
So I feel like all of us have, you know, now at this age, 40, 42, 43, our kids are a little bit grown, and all of us has a time but we don't have an energy left. Actually. So it's not like that I don't have a time 9 to 10 for myself and all, but the energy is not left. So I have felt that if you have a proper even planning for your sleeping, eating habits and the exercise every day, that builds the stamina. And something like unexpected things comes in a day, you don't feel that shock in your body, because your body is, you have designed it such a way that it takes it and then says, okay, this is now my time, I have to put time into it. So it's not only the time, but also the whole day, how you have been living, that helps you to achieve your goals too.
Right. And one of the things to remember when you experience setbacks and you feel like, well, I have so many things to do and I have a lot of short-term goals, is just to have a priority list, right? I just told my kids the priority list. Your priority, number 1, health and safety. Number 2, family. Number 3, school and work. Number 4, friends. Number 5, your entertainment, your television or your hobbies or things like that. I just told them the priorities. And now when they're like that and when things conflict, they say, well, is it number 1? Well, 1 beats 3. Oh, is it number 2? Well, 2 beats 5. So just like that. So if you have a priority list, then you will feel at peace letting some things go. And if one of your priorities is this time you carve out every day, you will feel at peace letting that thing that needs attention in your house, letting the toilet be broken for another day.
That's the problem, Tim. The problem is that we are okay. I'm okay with my priorities, but I'm getting conflicted with someone else's priorities that are coming to me. You know, it's like that thing's still broken. Like it's like okay, we'll work on it, right? But it's not a part. You're right. It's not about the priority, but there's a list, and my list starts like with my personal list, then like my work list, then like my kids list, and it's like go pick up this and go pick up that, and like. It's complicated because it's not my priority. It's someone else's priority that's conflicting with my priority. And they're both number 1, They're one for me and one for them, right? But that's not like, I don't know how to sometimes like, you just suck it up and move on, right? That's what you do because that's what we do. But it's complicated because what we want to achieve in the day, we don't.
Right.
Right? Because listen, the time, we're never going to be able to buy time, right? That's the most precious thing that we got. So for whatever it's worth, every minute does count, right? In that sense, right? So you want to maximize the ability to go do that.
What you said is very important. Time is precious. I mean, I learned this in last 1 year, and now all the housework, all the main fixing or like lawn thing and this and thing, I used to do it. Now I'm like, okay, I have a guy who comes, who does it. Because the time is more important for me than...
Well, your money bought you time.
Yeah,
that's what money buys most people.
Exactly.
Most people buy time with money.
Yes,
because they hire other people to do things. But who can help Nick? Now, Nick has a problem and he needs help. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. I have some of my things in mind, but I want to hear you guys. Who can help Nick?
So the problem statement is, we have our priorities, but how do we take care of other people's priorities that meddle with ours?
Specifically Lopa in this case.
No, he's talking about the kids and not Lopa.
I'm just kidding.
That's the problem statement, correct?
He's scared, that's why he's not saying.
I'm not scared. Well, like, I'll give you another example. He's saying to go hire someone, right? So I went and hired someone. They came and they didn't fix it right. So that problem still became it's still my problem, right? Like, yes, I can spend money to resolve some part of my time or what have you, or my skill set that I don't have.
Yes.
Right? Like you need a plumber. You can't go and undo everything yourself to go do it, right? And that guy comes and it still doesn't work like 2 days later. Then what? You're back in the same boat, right? So I think that, I don't know.
Setting expectations is one of the ways to do it. Setting expectations, right, with people who...
Can you record this and send it to me?
Regularly. This is being recorded. That's right. So setting expectations with generally the people whose priorities meddle with your priorities, right? And hey, listen, this is what I'm actually experiencing now. How can you and I work together for this to minimize? I'm sure it's impossible to eliminate it, but...
No, I accept exactly what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, when something isn't done repeatedly, right? like for a certain period of time, it becomes higher on someone's priority list and becomes lower on someone else's priority list.
Different problem.
You know, because it's a different priority, right?
Nick,
But-
you're just the one soul. So there's just one list. That's your list. And maybe your children are number 3 on your list. And maybe one of their priorities is number 1 on their list. But that's their list.
Yeah.
You can't make it be number 1 on
Yeah.
your list. That is the whole reason we
Alright,
have
so-
the list in the first place.
on
There
Friday-
can just be only the one list. And that's the list of Nick's soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on Friday, Rhea got sick. She didn't go to school, right? So I took her to the doctor. So I lost my whole morning going to the doctor, right? That wasn't on my list anytime on Thursday when I looked at it at night or Friday morning when she woke up.
But I don't see the problem. Yeah, you took her to the doctor.
no.
Great.
So
Fantastic.
what happened on my list didn't be accomplished. That's what I'm
Right.
saying, right? Like
Right.
that got kicked out, right?
Right.
So on Saturday morning, I'm like, shoot, I'm behind. I got to go to the office, right? To go clear
Like
up
this
what-
domino thing.
Right,
is
yeah,
happening.
this domino effect, right?
Mhm.
I was like, where are you going? I was like, I gotta go to the office. She's like, no, we got this, right?
Right,
Right,
and
yeah.
that's where you have your list, okay? So something happened, you had to do it. And nobody's saying you
No,
shouldn't
like,
take your
I'm-
child to the doctor.
No, I'm
you
just,
had to
I'm
take
giving
your
you an
child to the
example.
doctor.
I'm not saying
no,
I'm
I
gonna
know, I
change
understand.
my list because no, you're not on my
No.
list. I can't take you.
Yeah, I understand. We're trying to stop this domino action. So what happens is now you have a different problem because the first domino's
Yeah.
fall. You have to go to work on Saturday. So now you have, this is something you have control over. Now there's Lopa's list. She's saying, well, we have to go to this thing. And you're like, well, I have to do my work. So which is higher on the list? Your work or this social engagement? You tell me. I don't know. Maybe it's your list.
I don't know, man. Friday was like, I went to, after
So-
I brought Rhea back, I went to work, I had a flat tire. I went to
Right.
Discount Tire and stood there
So
for
let's
2
say
hours.
work is
You know, like,
let's say work
I had
is
no
higher
luck
on
that
your
day.
list, right? And that's a problem because this social engagement, if that's what it was, is higher on your wife's list, right? So you go to work and now you have a problem because your wife is upset. So now that becomes the
That's
thing.
her problem, right? Because upset, she's
No,
angry at
it's-
herself, right?
yeah,
That
it's-
has to do with her, not me.
I like a framework.
You have a relationship you have to
Framework
work on. It's still somewhat your problem. So now you went to work because that was on the higher priority. And now you're done with work on Saturday. And now you have to try to make it up to your wife. And maybe now that's the priority because now work is gone, right? So that's not conflicting. It's always just a matter of picking the highest thing on the list.
Correct.
And the thing you have to do is not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Well, I
Because
feel- I
that's
feel
the
guilty
reason
because,
that's the
like,
reason
it's
you
getting
have the list.
compounded, right? Like, so.
Sure, yeah, and I can easily see now what you're talking about based
then-
on your voice.
Then I
It's
don't go
very
to the gym.
stressful.
Then I don't go to the gym, right? So I'm like, shoot, I didn't go to like I'm like the domino effect is like
So
now me
now
personally.
you have to forgive yourself
Correct.
and choose the next highest priority on the
That's
list.
why I went to go run this morning.
It's very hard. and that brings up a great point. You know,
But-
it's easy to say this in class, and it's hard to put it in practice in your life
action, yes.
because you might say, "Oh, I have a list." But that list involves disappointing your husband or your wife. That list involves saying no to your child when she's asking for help on her homework, right?
Right.
That list involves ripping up your money. That list involves pulling out all your hair. That list involves working on your soul because that is the only thing that matters. Imagine how guilty people felt when they work on their soul and they don't have time to give back to the community. That list involves shedding the karma from your soul and disregarding your family. Imagine how guilty you might feel about that, right? That list involves realizing what the ultimate thing is, and that's going to moksha. Because
that-
everything else is transient.
Does that not feel
And
like
we're
greedy to some
making
person?
ourselves worry for no reason.
Would it not seem like okay, greedy is probably not the right word, but this person is just self-indulgent himself. He's not caring about his others.
It seems like that to other people because they have their own agenda. If I'm working on my soul and somebody says, you're so selfish, you're working on your soul, I don't give a damn.
See, somebody's sick, somebody's dying, and you left them, and then you're doing still your activity. That is, but if somebody wants to go say social activity and social engagement, and then
Toilets flooding, water's coming up. Sorry, I have my priority.
no,
Where's the line?
Well, I think
highest priority.
so. One comment I want to make is so Nick, like you said, domino effect and unplanned things come up, and I think that happens to everybody. We all get distracted. Unplanned things come up. So how about putting some contingency in our plan, which is the focus time or whatever that time you leave.
The buffer
I don't have an
time.
ABC list, man. I got one list. He just said I got one list, man. I can't create more contingency than I
The
got.
one list and your soul is on the top of the list.
All right, well, then you're on your own.
Yeah.
Nobody can help.
My soul can't help Angelo.
He can't.
I was trying to help,
That's
but
all that this book has been promising you, is that you're on your own. Okay? That you're responsible for your soul.
Person accountable for what
Yeah.
happens to you.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that there is the one list, and the list is in this book, and you are the only one responsible for that list, and it's working on your soul.
So to add to that, what you said, from last few months, at least from 6 months, I have said that I'm my own, my own. For my anger, my happiness, everything is I'm responsible, nobody else, and that has made me really very peaceful soul. Actually, very happy that okay, and whether I get it, I don't get it, whatever happens, it's me because I'm dealing with my emotions. It's all my emotions. So that has helping me a lot. I mean, I don't even have an expectation from my child or my wife, and I tell her all the time, I don't have any expectation or anything. So that has made my life very simple and easy because hey, you know what? I'm doing what I want to do. She asked me to go somewhere, I go with her, come back, that's it, done, and then I'm my own then.
I can see it in your face.
So I'm just telling you that I tell myself I'm my own. Even I get sick. I was 3 days sick. I didn't even ask my wife anything. You do your stuff. I was doing whatever I need to do it. I went to doctor myself. I said, no, I don't need it. I can do it. So I am actually kind of not being like independent. I don't want to be independent, but I know that, everybody cannot make you happy, this and that. So I don't want to be that outside dependency, which I was, and because you expect this, you expect this, you expect this, and at the end of it, I've seen that you met more people, you have a social life with more people, and you are just creating more drama in your life. Nothing else you're doing.
Questions or comments from anything we discussed today? From anybody online too, I don't want to ignore you guys. Questions or comments from anybody online? Well, I wish we had more time. This discussion just started getting very good, and we started getting down to brass tacks about how to apply Jainism to our life. But I only get you for an hour each week, and I'm so sorry about that. I wish I could get you for more. But remember, this class has always been about how to apply Jain principles to your life and to make your life better when you walk out that door. I know you're going to be thinking about lunch. I know you're going to be thinking about your family. But maybe carve out some time for you every day to start thinking about your soul. Sure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
And I want to give a recognition.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you've raised your hand first.
No, so I just wanted to give a quick update on the lunch sponsorship. So I have now finally given the check to the temple. Everything is squared and settled.
Great.
So we had 26 sponsors in all, $2,600, and I'll publish the final account for everybody's benefit.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking charge of that.
Yeah. So I want to recognize what we go through this class, and actually I got to experience the benefit of what we are discussing in this class in literally this morning. This morning, like yesterday, we had a long Friday night, don't get enough sleep on Saturday, so I was kind of knocked out a little bit yesterday evening. And for some reason, I always have this body clock of getting up at 5:30, no matter what. But my body was telling me that I need more sleep. And all kinds of thoughts started coming in my head that, hey, about work, this customer has not signed the change order yet, but my team is still continuing to work. What if this guy does not sign the change order? What if this thing does not happen? I have these personal things that I have to do today. We have to travel to San Antonio today evening. How is that going to go? Like, there were so many thoughts starting to creep in at 5:30 a.m. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let any of this bother me. And my mind wants to think about nothing. And I just kept on repeating to myself that I do not want to think about anything. Don't do it. And I was able to pull off an additional 2 hours after that.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
you
you. And I'm
tell
so
your
refreshed. I feel so amazing right now. And credit to this class. Some of it goes to it.
Great. I'm so happy for you. Thank you, everybody, for coming
Thank
today.
you.
Thanks, Samir.